Kaya. Parich ni tununga maya wangin. Koop. Nita koop, ninalangin wangalangin. Nita minang buja, ngalakat ninin yay. It's good to be here today. I think it's a privileged opportunity we're in. We're on Minang, Noongar land. It's good to be here together, talking, and as is the title of this panel, honouring Indigenous languages. We've got quite a strong Noongar influence here today, and then we get more diverse as we move even out of the continent. I'll introduce our speakers as best I can and ask them to correct me where necessary, and I would encourage our panel members to ask questions of one another as we're indeed honouring Indigenous languages here today. Furthest up, on your left, Mr. Howard Riley, Wilman Noongar activist, stalwart fighting for social justice generally, and defender of Noongar language. Next to him, Mr. Joe Northover, was born in Collie and is a senior representative of the Billigo. Wilman Noongar is renowned for explaining Noongar connection to family, land and tradition. He has a diverse working experience, working life, which includes time as a policeman, a health worker, a teacher, an ambulance officer, and is a long-standing volunteer with the State Emergency Service. So a man making a big contribution across the field. Next to Joe is Bella Tursun, who was born in East Turkestan. She's a dancer and language teacher at Uyghur Language School in South Australia and is appearing at Denmark Festival of Voice as part of a group performance of Mukam Rak, the ancient and protected song cycle from Uyghur culture. Next to Bella, moving this way, Emily Wurramara. And roll those R's. Say your name again and roll those R's so beautifully.
Emily Wurramara.
Thank you. Is a performer, singer-songwriter of songs in both English and Anindyaaqua, her own Indigenous language. There are hundreds of Indigenous languages across the continent. Let us remember that. Emily's from the Groote Island area of Northern Territory, and particularly wants her songs to inspire and empower young Indigenous women particularly. Last but certainly not least, Dr Richard Walley, Order of Australia medalist, one of Australia's leading Aboriginal performers, writers and cultural ambassadors. Richard's the founder of the Midar Aboriginal Theatre, which began eons ago in 1978. And Richard, and I hope Richard is okay with me saying this, I haven't checked it with him, but it's significant. We don't want to be fighting so early in the panel here. Richard continues to be a major figure in establishing Noongar culture as the key ingredient of WA identity. Bella, can you tell us about your Indigenous language that's closest to you, please?
Okay, so we speak Uyghur language, so the correct pronunciation is, I can say in my language, we say Uyghur. So it's a Turkic ethnic minority, and then our language is, the way we spoke is similar to Turkish, and our alphabet is similar to Arabic. That's our language, and then our language has many year history, like more than 100 years. And then in the beginning, we used is similar to English alphabet, but after that, for example, my parents learn different alphabet, and then when it comes to my generation, we learn different alphabet. But at the end, the way we speak, the way we speak is same, but the way people write is different. But now our community is stood with like one. I can say, how should I describe? One pattern. Yeah. That's it.
And the alphabet is standardized?
Yeah, it is standard. We have 32 alphabets, and then each letter has 4 different writing style. For example, if in English we have a letter A, so in our language, if we say A, we say A. And then there's one A, we call that bash A. The second A, we call yaluz A. The third A, we call akhir A. The last A, we call hamzalik akhir A. So when you write in the sentences, the way you use is like different.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried when we get to Noongar language, what we'll try and get the spelling sorted. We could learn a lot from you, I think, Bella. That's enough.
I'll speak English.
Emily, can you talk a little bit about the language close, your Indigenous language?
So my people are the Untitled people, but we speak the main 3 languages, Untitled, Noongar Boyu, and we incorporate also Pidgin English and Yolngu language. So Yolngu language is Northeast Arnhem Land mob. So if you know your Thiendi, the ones who speak the Yolngu language. And it's more verbal spoken, so very oral. We don't write stuff down, and it's
wise.
just I think it's good too. But yeah, it's passed down between families from generation to generation. Like my mum, she can speak 7 different Indigenous languages from all across. I wish I could, but it's really hard. Yeah.
Yes, that's something we often forget with all the many Indigenous languages across the continent, the number of people that speak several of them. We've got the Noongar overlap here, Noongar overlap. Richard, so we might be talking dialects, let's see how we go. Can you talk a little bit about...
Well, if you want an argument, you ask how to spell Noongar. Because we've got different dialects. There's Noongar, there's Noongar, which is spelled N-O-O-N-G-A-R. Then you've got Nyongar, then you've got Nyongar. So Yuit, they more go with the R up top. And so different dialects. And also not only the and the spelling. So what happens is now it took many years to accept that there's many different ways of spelling it. And so being an oral language, it was, and it's regional, it's accepted whichever region you're in. So that's why when you see someone writing something on Noongar, it can be spelt many different ways. And I think the acceptance of the different dialects has been important. So there's no definitive. And what's good about the language is in our Noongar culture, most of the times, particularly birds and animals, they say their own names. So Kulbari is a magpie. Wardang is the crow. So Jonyat is the parrot. That's in this one. So you'd have a different area, but most of where you go, they say their own name. And the beauty about language is we're learning all the time. So every time I catch up, thank you, particularly with Joe and Kim and with Howard, we learn new words and new things, and we're open to that learning. So we don't see ourselves as being the definitive or the experts in the language, because the language is the expert, the culture is the expert, we're components of it.
Thank you, Richard. Well spoken. Joe, would you like to add something? We've got 3 of us speaking about Noongar.
I don't know what you know. I'm Joe Northover. I'm calling Ankara, you know. I'm moored, bear go moored. I'm borrowing a quedlang calling him, animal pool. My term is a quedlang. My spirit is the Ngā Kangarituago, the hairy-faced snake. Bella Tursun in the Collie River. He sleeps in the Collie River. He created all the waters in that area. I say that because it's important so you know that I'm just not a Noongar, but where I come from. My totem and my spirit. Because I'm not from here. Even though my family said it's all right to come here and talk, and it's still important that I acknowledge them. So I acknowledge the Minang mob, the old people. My auntie was Animina, my mother's sister. She married old Charlie Bullfrog. So even though they've got connections there, but I'm still not from here. And I've got to respect the people from here. And as Richard said, we're talking all the time, but the problem is we don't have people to talk to. And that we lose some of it. And it's not until we come across each other that we wanga, don't you wanga, nyon, wan. Ngāi wanga, young wanga, because it's sad we cry for it, because now nothing there no more. And you sit down and you're thinking about who'll come along now, yen ma kuli, ne, balai ne. My people come back to me, sit down and feed now. But who's going to talk? So it's hard to keep going when you don't have that interaction with other people. When my mother died, she was the last one. I had to come down here to my old cousin, Elma, before she passed away. The man there used to talk. She used to come into the office there at Aboriginal Affairs and sing out, because my brother, she sing out and me to talk. Then wait till the door standing back, she get out. And then I tell her, this is my cousin, my sister here. But anyway. But now there's no one to talk to. You're wan. So, ngani kulin yung nonga siya nyon wan ngang wearing kulin. We walk, our spirit goes by itself. But slowly we bring it back and reviving it slowly.
Howard, have you got a way of responding that idea of a language being oppressed and attempts to make people stop speaking it?
Yeah, I'm concerned, like everybody else here, about younger people not learning the language, making connection to family, country, and that slowly we're losing it. My concern now is that we have a situation where one day, I said to Joe a while back, there might not be any Noongars in this country anymore. Going to go with the culture, language, everything gone, tradition. But how do we preserve that? And how do we protect language so that language can protect our people? I've got to tell a sad story. I've got to mention someone's name. She passed away, but Kim, you and her, Richard will know her, Alison Smith, a fluent Noongar language teacher. I had a problem at my flat when I first did. There was animals, crows and, magpies, hungry ones outside my window making noise. She came there one day, she talked to them, she calmed them down and she said, now feed them. Never have a problem to this day. But she spoke in Noongar to these animals, told them that I would look after them. Applying language to your situation in a bush setting, with a fire going, you hear something. Ne, balai, what's that? We'll say to each other, something coming, We talked about this last night too, and it's like, I had a funeral, I was honoured enough to be asked to speak there, and I talked about how much she took with her when she left us. That library door is shut now. It can't be opened no more. What she left behind, we have to learn, we have to adapt it to our living, and it becomes more modernistic every year. And that you get caught in a dangerous situation in the bush, and you come across spiritual stuff in the bush, mamari or urachi or something, you know, some animal that we can't communicate with. You don't know how to talk to that creature. So where does that leave you? You're volatile. Your children then become at risk. You're at risk. Everything you do there is at risk. We don't have that mechanism now to be able to protect ourselves when we're on country. Very important in this day and age, because those beings that people will call mythical, to us are real. What you would call dreamtime, to us exist. We combat them every day. We see them when we go bush, we hear them, we smell them. We know what they are. And so we lost that mechanism to talk to them again. And we knew old Noongar people used to talk to them. I think you fellas might have had some people down here who used to talk to mummaries, you know? And then they passed that tradition on to us. But even I can't do that now. Joe can. And so I'm going to end my little session by telling you a story. I love eating marron. I go out every year, on or off season, get my feed, and then one year I decided to take my grannies out bush. And so I do the Noongar stuff, and I want to introduce them to the water. So we get our sand, get the sand, chuck it in the water. And I've done that, but I forgot what to say. What do I tell them? I'm here. What do I tell him? How do I ask him to feed us in it? The language has totally left me. Got my phone, Joe's number, rang it, put it on loudspeaker. Joe, talk to the snake here for me. We're hungry. So I got him on loudspeaker and I put the phone like that there. And he talks to that snake. We got a feed. Yeah. So we're talking about adapting. So that's what they're doing now, technology in the bush.
No, thank you. Well, thank you. We'll try and get back to that business of technology, actually. I think it's very relevant.
You can find it on Joe's app.
Right. Emily, can you tell us a little bit about, we started by talking about languages being endangered, in some cases legislation and oppression designed to crush language. What's the state of your language?
Oh, sorry, I'm so short. So Annan's Leokwa language is pretty well and thriving back at home, which is great, but with Western influence and kids going away to boarding school and going away from home, they kind of come back a bit baffled and a bit modernised, if that makes sense. And so the influence of Western kind of takes them back and away from culture for a bit because they feel shame. And that's like a lot of things, like when I grew up, that was kind of like how I felt, like a bit shame because I went to a predominantly white school and being Aboriginal, it was like the lowest thing you could probably be. And I'm only 23 years old, so, it still happens to this day in this society. And I think what I do with music, archiving and preserving, I think music is such a universal language that it doesn't matter what language you're speaking, you feel it in your soul and you feel it in your heart, and it's a way of healing, and it's a way of, language is a part of identity, it's a place, it's a belonging, it's the land, that our ancestors have spoken the language of my country for thousands and thousands of years. And so, like Uncle was saying, the environment hears. And it's that kind of keeps it going, and the ceremonies and the culture and the kinship we have with other mob as well, that's it's really beautiful to see. So I use music as a way of preserving that, and hopefully our future generations will continue to speak language.
And what about technology? Does that help with language? Picking up what, not quite the same way as what Howard was talking about, but is it used for language learning where you're from?
Yeah, so the NT, Northern Territory Government, has just released a NT Languages app which you can download on iPhones. I don't think it's that flash for Samsungs yet or anything else. But which is great because, that can be used in schools as an educational tool, and a lot of remote areas as well. So I think there's like 10 different languages, and Anantaliokwa is one of them. So it's really beautiful to see the incorporation of all languages in this app. So I definitely recommend you go and download it.
Okay, thank you. A couple of recommendations for apps. And Bella, you're well off in terms of an alphabet, you've told us. Is there a role for technology in nourishing your language?
Yes, we do have different apps. People designed, and then you can download from the Apple website. And what we do at school is because nowadays like so many kids addicted to the technology, so we use old style like paper writing, because you have to remember. Once you write each alphabet, so then you remember. So we have like 5 different classes. So the reception and year 1, they just write and do some coloring and stuff. But my class is year 2 and year 3. We also have year 5 and year 6 classes. So these students who really concentrate on writing and reading and make sure they understand what they're writing and what they reading. So we make sure we cooperate with both English and Uyghur language together. So we have 6 teachers at school, so we work very hard.
Oh, we all work very hard. Thank you. How we're talking about the poor health in many cases of languages, and we've indicated something about the role of technology in helping learn them and nourish them, and of alphabets. Perhaps, Ed, what can we do to honour our Indigenous languages? Richard, what are the things that are happening and what might we do?
I think there's 3 different areas we look at. Is how we speak ourselves, our Noongar language. We also got the Wajara language, the English. But we also got the Noongar English, where we've taken some English words and completely changed them around. And I used to have a lot of problems when I used to go, I used to chair the Aboriginal Arts Board and a couple of organisations, and we used to go to openings. And when you declare something open, in a Wajala sense, that means it's for business. You declare it open in a Noongar sense, it is winya and it's no good. So when you come on, yeah, we declare this open, and you got to think about it, because it's changing the language around. And so we take those words. If someone is really good, one of the common use we said, well, they're horses. Yeah. So if someone's a horse, they're really good. They're not an animal that's thinking around. So you've got to realise that adapting of English words into our language, and you find that even the young ones adapt a couple of different, like one of the sayings that the young ones are using was Nyon Bub. Yeah, Nyon Bub was Winyan for Bub came in there. So it's to me, it's like Joe was saying, there's a standard that is here, that is under challenge. And it's under challenge with English at one side, but also bringing in this other language to interpret. So I think it's a double-edged challenge. And as I mentioned before, the language comes in those three categories. The first one we say, the Spirit watch over us, we speak for our soul, and it's that intuition you tap into, you feel that energy, like they're saying when you go into a place, you feel safe or unsafe, you pick up people if they're safe or not. That's the energy, we call it the or Wirn Wang. Then you have the sign language. And sign language is quite good too, because the hand language, so so you got all those different ways of yeah. And as I mentioned people before, the most used part in our language is the hands and the lips, you know. So that becomes... But that's another language, the body language, which you can all say. So the third one, of course, is then the words, which becomes in there. So there's many challenges to bring that into play. And when you talk about preserving and preserving a language, you're not just talking about words. It's all those other levels, but also how the words are said and accepted how they're said.
You got to be careful
Yeah.
when you say words, because sometimes they're very similar. I just sit down there, like a lot of kids, like you're saying, they kunyi. And I think, what? No, it's kuli. Oh, no, we say kunyi. Well, I can't hear what you... Anyway. And another one is, when you're sitting down, you say, I want some of that, like chukunjeri, moyang. And you got to be careful. Moyang and moyang. One means sex, another one is a sheep guts to eat. So when you're sitting down, you say, and you want that chukunjeri, make sure you say chukunjeri, the sheep. Moyang, yes. You know, sit down and you eat that. You say the other thing, you slap in the mouth, because old woman, they'll hit you. Oh, yeah, I know.
And because we do use, when we talk language, we do use hands. It's like Joe just pointed to his mouth, we're having a feed, sort of, so that you know straight away what I've said. So we use our hand.
And like we said, there's sign language. We never sit face on like this. Like when we grew up, we had to sit side on or back on. And in a Uyghur way, that's a rude, see? But it's not. It's rude to face one another. Yeah. Because the only time you face one another, if you're insulted, or if there's, you know, they follow you. Mine, yeah, yours will come down, go along. But facing one another was very rude and insulted. And you wasn't allowed to look at someone in the face, especially old women. Oh yeah, you get slapped in it with a stick. Yeah, they bombing in a car, bombing, you know, they hit you until you bleed. When I was a policeman, they used to say to me, they said, this young girl won't press charge on the old woman because the old woman hit her. I said, what's she done, old girl? She looked at me. I'm back to the policeman, I said, yeah, she looked at him. What?
Yeah.
She got hiding because she looked at her, yeah. Because to me, that was right, what she did.
Yeah.
This policeman said, I can't. You know, just, well, anyway, let the court decide. So in the court, because I was on night shift the night before, so I was in sleep. Knock on the door. Sergeant stand there. I said, what? You want it in the court, he said, because the judge don't understand what's going on. I said, what? I got dressed, put my hat on and walked up to the court. Constable, could you please explain to the court what's this? I said, in our law, this young girl not supposed to look at that old woman. That's wrong. But how's she going to talk to her? She's not supposed to talk to her. She's supposed to talk side on or head down. She's not supposed to talk to her directly. That's respect. So the old woman slapped her butt ears because she's not allowed to. She reminded her what it was. He said, I don't understand. Well, I said, you got two customs in this court. And he said, all right then. He said, right. He didn't know how to deal with it. Then he said, turn around and said, oh, lawful chastisement. He said, I'll dismiss the case because there's all the young girls, and this old woman jumped up and the young girl looked at her, she put her head down. Going to give her it again. But yeah, I had an argument not long ago in Bunbury with my nieces that they had this motor car and they put on the side of it there, courage. And I'm looking at it. I said, what that is? That's just a car, motor car. I said, yeah, but that's courage. And I said, that's scratching. I said, what? I said, yeah, your courage up against a tree or you're up against a post or your courage, you know? And you sit there and even younger, kari chia. And that's what I said. I said, no, I said, kari is motor car. Because you know the old days when they're like, old car, kari. See, a lot of our language is based on, so was European, was based on the car, the sound. So to us, we grew up with kari. But kara is melua, lies, telling lies. So see, you have to be careful. Kari, courage. But then follow down there that, they said, no, we stick to cars. Well, you jump the car and go along. I'm not going to sit there and skate. But yeah, our language is becoming...
Because then we talk about body language. Joe and I worked on the research papers back in the late 80s with the Aboriginal Education Consultative Group, teaching Aboriginal children around, and to find out why kids never progress from year 8 to year 10, 11, 12. Why? One of the main reasons children getting into year 8 to 9, 10, they dropped out mainly around year 9, halfway through year 8, because it was insistent of them to communicate with their white teachers by looking at them in the eye. And for us, that's culturally inappropriate. We don't do that to our families. We don't do that to anybody in our community, so why should we have to do that in a classroom situation? If I'm not looking at you, it doesn't mean I'm not taking any notice of what you're doing or saying. Other people will tell me what you've done, or I can figure out myself. But the rate of our children who dropped out of school because of that reason was so high that we had to go back through all the schools and start teaching culture. And not only in Noongar country, right through Western Australia, and I think it's right through Australia now. And myself as an adult student, I studied at DIT, and I've got to say this because two people that I learnt from there who taught me moiety and kinship with the Editch and Editcha people, I think might have been two uncles belong to this girl. Their first names both begin with B. I can't say their names because I don't know whether they're with us anymore. But learning from that culture and adapting it to how I want to use it in other language groups of mine helped me to get this far. I can't fluently talk Noongar. I can understand when Joe's swearing at me, yeah. And I can understand certain things. And I know when to shut up when someone tells me to in language, because then I might have went too far. So I'm waiting for them to tell me to shut up now, but they're not doing it.
But we might. Thank you, Howard. One of the things we've talked of late here, I think, if I've got this right, is the business of languages blending, the purity or otherwise of language, and something we've touched on towards the end is the authority. How do you decide which direction the language is going to move in? Emily, authority for language, do you need to keep it pure or not? And how are those decisions made? Please.
Well, you know, in every culture we have elders and, you know, leaders of our community and stuff. And so usually we just have gatherings to have yarns about this, but I don't think it's my authority to talk about it. Being a female, we still have that very male hierarchy system back at home, and so it's a bit difficult for me to talk about that, but we do have elders that communicate and talk about how we can preserve and pass down to our young ones, and yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
It's an evolving community authority and under that overarching authority of elders.
We were told never to speak our language or sing our songs and dance. We were given citizenship papers. If you was to deny everything, and you pass it on. But we don't go to... Well, I'm talking from my parents. Even though they had a hard life, they never basically went to the grave that I seen with hatred in their heart. But you could see the damage and the hurt. My grandmother's name was Bella, and she, again, was old school. And she never talked about the hard days because she said there's too much hurt. But yes, what's going to happen to us when the Wajilas and Dawaras and Jadbris want to wang in the... I had a dream many years ago that Collie, all them young Wajilas, Dawaras, they'll be all want to learn the language. And I thought, that's a good thing. I don't deny anyone that language myself, because I sit there and I think, who else going to talk it, keep it alive? Who else is going to sing the Mole songs? Them songs belong to the country. That language belongs there. And who's going to take that and run with it and be? At the moment I sit, and I nyong. We cry, I cry for the land because what's happening to it. I'm guilty as well because we can't argue the point, we can't fight. But they go hand in hand with one another. So you sit down and you sit down, Yemba kulin, Yemba kulin. Ne. Oh my God, oh my God. That wind, okay. Ne, Yemba wange. Oh, they're talking now. Someone else talking. My mood calling, Yira calling. Who they're talking there? Oh, that Jadbury talking there, that funny one. Or that Dawa, he talking. So you got to tell it awful in the bush there, that spirit, that's all right. Because he's the one who don't know who it is. Yung nga kang garit wagol don't know who it is too. Bala pa ya karijan chenanga chenok. E karijan chenanga chen. Weng yen ba kolin. Yen ba kolin. Man more dear. So it's not just wanted to speak and it's all right, I thought about it. You've got to be able to talk to him. You've got to talk to this wind. You've got to talk to that bird. And you've got to talk to that yonga. Yonga calling you, Yonga chair. Yonga the Koloko, Yonga the Koloko. Mani Abama Yonga, Yonga calling you, Abama Yonga. So it's all right to talk it. But you've got to make sure that everything has a reason in the language. Emily? Make sense? No?
I can't, I'm just really overwhelmed.
That's good. That's good work, Joe. We're running out of time. It's been difficult to give the right amount of space and to do justice to each of our speakers. So forgive me, particularly the speakers where I've erred there. Bella, thanks for being so generous and sharing with us, and I apologise for leading you to that point, but when we're honouring Indigenous languages, there's this and Joe's been very eloquent here today about that. There's a level of emotional intensity because it speaks of the spirit that's always in play. Can you join me in applauding our speakers here today?